All right, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum, shalom. Welcome to the Doc and the Radical program. We are live and direct. Peace and blessings, Doc. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good, my brother. Good to be here, man. Happy to be here.
Yes, sir. Definitely, definitely. The title today is Black Men Must Bring the House to Order. And when we're looking at that, we're not just talking about our own personal houses that we live in, but we're talking about the communities that we're in. We're talking about, the places where we work. We're talking about the environments that we fluctuate in, that we go in and out. There has to be order, even in the little things that we do. When God created people, the next thing he created was order. And so order is very, very important. We want to welcome Mellow Cap. Peace and blessings, Mellow Cap. It's good to see you back. Doc, when you think about the statement that Black men must bring the house to order, and looking at all the different aspects of what that really means, what's your thoughts on that?
My initial thought is this idea of being able to deal and control oneself. That before we venture out and begin to look at bringing something beyond us in order, that we have to ensure that we have ourselves in order, have our own individual spirit, our own mindset in order before we venture out. I keep saying, and it's a blessing and a curse to continually see these calls for Black men to engage mental health facilities and things like that, getting that psychological house in order. So that's what I think about before even considering talking about getting the family in order, before talking about education, talking about finances or what have you. I think that the idea of getting oneself in order is crucial. It is the foundation for everything else, because I'm actually seeing a lot of brothers who are experiencing simultaneously some form of financial prosperity, and at the exact same time, what if they were anywhere near their right mind, they would recognize as a mental health crisis, and the money that they're accumulating or making, because they're really not accumulating it, that money is providing them options that's merely magnifying what it is that is wrong within their souls.
Wow, that's something. Do you believe that there's like some type of declaration that Black men must make to themselves before starting that type of journey?
A declaration, not a public one, not a public declaration. I don't see much utility in the idea of going out and having a public performance. So much of the work that we need to do, if it's going to be real work, has to occur behind the scenes, almost closet. And there's these public performances, these gatherings, they mask a lot of things. Oftentimes they're little more than what I call mental masturbation sessions, that ultimately, when they're done, you find yourself in the exact same place that when you started, if not a worse place.
Mm, exactly. Now, what is this declaration would be like, that a black man would have to make behind the scenes? And I use that because I'm quite sure you've heard the saying where it says, start with the end in mind. You know,
Hmm.
when you're starting making your goals of how you're going to get here, and
Hmm.
so I really believe that in
The,
order
the
for
outcome,
us.
the outcome that you want. Yeah. Go ahead.
Exactly, exactly. So for us to be where we should be, we have to make this declaration, to ourselves, in just dealing with self, and let that
Mhm.
be, like your mission statement in life, that you live up to it, and you don't break it, you stick
Mhm.
by it.
Mhm.
What goes into that type of process, of thinking to be able to make a statement, and then what is the steps to making sure that you follow it through?
For me, one of my what I'll say about the steps. The first thing is everything that's going to be fruitful is going to be generated and flowing from the truth. And black men, just like any other group of men or women, you don't bullshit yourself. Okay, you know what your strengths are. You know what your weaknesses are. You know if you're a hothead. And a big part of me has always been trying to create the context or environment that would give me the maximum opportunity to reach the outcome that I want. Today is, I told you I've been here waiting to go on, and we got our times mixed up because they're on that arrogant Eastern Standard Time. So when they tell you, 5:30, they really, for me, I have to convert it to 4:30. Um, but my intention today was to accomplish several things, and I accomplished those things. And one of them was being here with the family. Now, to make that happen, I had to literally understand what I wanted the outcome to be and what I needed to do, the things I needed to do in order to be able to be here as well. I think that that's a small example of
Mhm.
what we have to do. I think that everything has to be predicated upon outcome. And what is your intention? What are you striving for? What are and that's an entirely different discussion
Mhm.
because it causes one to really have to grow up and have to prioritize. Because if your ultimate goal is to raise strong children, to get them to a certain point,
Mhm.
well, that's going to conflict for many people with some of the things that they desire, some material things like gold chains, Air Jordan tennis shoes, all of these other things that really, from my value, from my position, don't matter.
Mm.
But if the accumulation of material things is your thing, that's who you are. That's your thing. So you need to start arranging things that can make that come. So I think that what I'm trying to say is quite simply that you're for black men, and I'll just deal with black men. For black men who are seeking to do something substantial for the race, for themselves, for their families, for God, they need to have that end script, that end goal already laid out for themselves so that they can kind of reverse engineer and create a path to achieving that. If you don't do that, and this is sort of my thing that frustrates me with my students, if you don't choose a end goal and develop a path, life will choose one for you,
Mm.
and it will dictate where you are going in that, and it will have no consideration, no care at all about what it is that you're going through. That path that is definitely not going to take you to where it is that you said you wanted to go.
Mm. Excellent, excellent. I want to take the second to welcome in Deacons of Reality and Twin Pyramid. Peace and blessings, brothers. Welcome to the program. We're glad that you're with us.
Most
So,
certainly.
Doc, I want to ask you this statement: being a male is a matter of birth, but being a man is a matter of choice. Um, do you think that's um, a line, a thinking, or a thought pattern that would be helpful to Black men, especially in moments of consequence, of moments where you got to make real hard decisions? And as you said, anything has to be based in truth. And so making those type of decisions brings, different type of agitations or problems,
Mhm.
where if you're a weak man, you'll run away from that, but if you're a strong man, you'll make that decision and deal with what needs to be dealt with. What's your thoughts on that phrase?
Well, the phrase that, yeah, male is a gender assignment that you enter into this world with. Manhood is something that is going to have to be developed and sharpened because of the requirements of manhood as you age are going to definitely be altered. They rest upon a few sort of things like truth, honor, discipline, commitment, the ability to be to persevere, and what have you. However, not everyone has a developed understanding of what manhood is, and we often see this hyper masculinity coming from a segment of, and of course we're just dealing with black men, from some black men, and it has nothing at all to do with manhood. This unbridled rage, aggressiveness, this mean mucking that men do, as if, don't approach me, I'm hard, and it has nothing to do with manhood. And so many people, and when we talk about this idea of it being a choice,
Mhm.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Mm.
I don't know if it's a choice, because the supposition of it being a choice is quite simply, you have path A, you have path B, path C. Choose which one you're going to go down.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, for far too many of our brothers, they don't have the information. They haven't seen manhood modeled to really be able to understand what going through that door actually means and what it requires for you to do. One of the, as a historian, one of the more shocking moments of things I've studied about black men and black manhood is quite simply that so much of within this nation of what a man is and what people perceive a man to be within Black America flows directly from white America.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the idea that, historically speaking, one of the biggest frustrations in the post-slavery period was that white landowners who now did not have technically enslaved Africans, what they had were individuals who were sharecropping for them, and in some form of economic peonage. Their frustration, they had two frustrations. One was that these black sharecroppers seemed to be intent on sending their children to school to learn, whereas they wanted you to be out there in that field picking cotton. And the other one was quite simply, they wanted all hands on deck, including the mother, the wife of black men, to be out there picking cotton, to be out there, working. And black men often refused to have their women out there working. And one of the most beautiful positions that one, utterances that one would find from our ancestors during the Reconstruction period is the assertion of, well, your wife don't work. in the field. So why should mine have to? And if you utilize white manhood as the template for black manhood of how what a black man ought to be and ought to do, you're going to be hella frustrated, because far too often within this society, save for a few black men, the prevailing economic system that you're facing as a black man, of coming from the tradition of being last hired, first fired, marginalizes what you can do. I mean, you can look at, something as simple, as elemental as the demand that men are to provide. Well, I get it. Yet at the exact same time, our tradition has never been the tradition of white folk, which is by and large, which is quite simply a single earner household. It's always called for black men and black women to work in conjunction with each other in regards to protecting the home, protecting the children, for providing. I asked my students, ironically, this week, we were talking about the Montgomery bus boycott and who was on those buses. And of course, it was the women who were going into white neighborhoods to do day work. I asked them, how much money do you need to live in America with dignity? And their response was, 80,000, a little over 80. I said, okay, a little over 80. Now let's be truthful with this. Black men, by and large, when you look at what we earn, the average black man is earning 47 to 48,000. The average black woman is earning, I think the figure is like slightly over 41,000. You put those two together, you at 88. Separate, you're both impoverished to the point where you can't even think straight. Okay. And so that's been our tradition of black families, that we've had to rely upon each other because we have been economically marginalized. And to this day, there was a report that came out, I think 2-3 years ago, that was talking about the, and I remember the black women's number because it startled me so, about the median amount of wealth that black women have. And it was $8. I mean, really think about that. It was $8. And that flies, and this is why media and perception and the racial image is so important. That contradicts directly all of these sisters who have been convinced that they are creating these businesses. They're making all of this money. They're boss chicks and what have you. Truth of the matter is you're fronting.
Right.
You're absolutely positively fronting. So the idea of black manhood in America is so markedly different from the idea of manhood in general in this nation, because black men have obstacles. And the black men that I'm talking about are the black men who have sat in my college classroom. I'm not even talking about a class of individuals who are incarcerated. Because regardless of what people want to say about American capitalism, some white folks' hatred of black folk is so significant that they would choose punishing and disenfranchising and economically crippling black men and black women over increased profits within their business.
And of course, all that is still true, but don't you still, Doc? You still have to make a decision that you're going to be a man. There's still a decision that has to be made.
No, I don't. I don't fight. I'm not pushing back against the decision. What I'm pushing back against is, do they understand what it means to be a black man in America?
Mm,
Do you understand what it means to even be black in America?
mm,
And I would argue that the vast majority of black folk don't even understand anymore what it means to be black in America. We've gotten ourselves far too often into a rhythm, and that rhythm is quite simply that we will be the good time Charlies of the world. We will go party. We will go do everything that we can. We are the entertainment kings because that allows us to keep our minds off of more substantive things that are really, really, really important. So the choice, you can choose to, whatever your variables and your qualifiers are for manhood. I've met brothers, and I know you've met brothers, that their qualifier was how many women they could bed down and how many children that they could produce.
right.
They made the choice to, that's their their undeveloped understanding of manhood, and they make the choice to go ahead and try and bring that to fruition. So yeah, it is a choice, but my concern is, what are you choosing? What is your understanding of what it is to be a black man in America?
Mm, awesome. Awesome. And so I heard some older brothers talking the other day,
Oh, wait a minute.
and
How old were they?
they had to be like 60s, 70s. They were
Oh, man,
old.
'cause look here, I didn't get real sensitive about the word old. Okay, when my students told me anything past 2000 is back in the day, I'm like, what?
Mm, mm,
Please,
mm,
I'm still in my prime.
I know that's right. But these brothers, they were talking, and one brother said to the other, he said, "Look here, black men, we are rare
Mhm,
because there's a whole lot of these niggas out here.
mhm,
But black men, we are rare,
mhm,
and I don't know how to change it." And so I'm listening into their conversation, and I'm like, "Wow, that's very interesting, very interesting." What's your thoughts on that comment?
Well, I agree wholeheartedly. And we can argue about why black men are no longer in the homes, but the socialization, the mentoring process that occurred within the homes of black folk, and I'm talking about my my father. My father, I used to doubt that my father even had a high school diploma because he
Mm,
would say stuff that was so egregious and ignorant towards me. I'm like, you ain't got no education, do you?
mm,
And he dug out from somewhere. It was old. That's all I can say. I can't prove it was fake, but it was a high school diploma with his name on it. But
mm.
my daddy was a steel worker. My
Okay.
his father, the original James Thomas Jones, he was a coin collector.
Mm,
Okay, and that's one of the things that my students can never wrap their heads around. My grandfather being a coin collector, and I asked them, "What is it? What do you think a coin collector is?" And they say, "Well, it's somebody that collects rare coins." And I'm like, "What? You think my daddy took care of his family? That this Negro was able to provide for a family collecting rare coins?
mm,
No." He was a coin collector. He was the brother that walked around Mansfield, Ohio, and emptied out the payphones.
mm,
He was a coin collector. So when you're dealing with that, um, neither one of them being formally educated, not at all.
mhm,
But they set the standard, and the men around me set the standard of what manhood was. My father, thank God, was in the house with us. But I had uncles, I had grandfathers, I had fictive kin who laid, this is what a man is. And what I one of my earliest conclusions was quite simply, well, being a man suck,
mm,
because you in every way get the worst of everything.
mm. Break that down, Doc. What do you mean?
You're in many ways a you in many, and I heard this term from a feminist, and it really for me still resonates with me. I'll just say it that way. It still resonates with me that you have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm as a husband and a father. It is a sacrificial job. Okay, we have all of these different songs. Hell, even Tupac, he's talking about dear mama. It is oftentimes a thankless job that you really have to, like my father and my grandfathers, Gerald Levert and Eddie Levert. They had that song, "The Wind Beneath My Wings."
Right.
For daddies, for fathers, that's our reward, to see those that we have provided for go forth and go further than we do. You don't see the wind, but the wind is there. Okay. You don't get a situation where you're going to often be, and I know it happens for some men, but you're not going to be necessarily celebrated. You know, Chris Rock, he had that riff in one of his comedy shows where he says, nobody, thanks daddy. You don't go home and say, daddy, thank you for these lights that's on so I can do my homework. Daddy, thank you for this food. No, you tell mama what, that show was good. Then what you made was hitting. Well, who provided it? And so in many ways, you learn from men to be self-sacrificing, to be a provider. I mean, the central essence of providing means that you are giving. And that's what I learned from my father. My father, he was a man who liked cars, and he had to, I remember he was going to buy a Bonneville, and he was so excited about getting his car. He had all these brochures and things like that. And I was sad. And he was like, what's wrong with you? I was like, yo, you buy that car, I ain't going to be able to go to college. And he said, you're going to college. He said, you just be ready to go. You do your part. Okay. And that in many ways is being self-sacrificing and setting ourselves on fire to keep others warm, is the reason why, hell, they were having debates 10 years ago about lowering, for Black men specifically, the retirement age, because we were dying at 63. Black men are, with the stress and the strain that they deal with in a white society, let alone having to deal with discord and trouble in their home. Black men die early, very early. And when you really think about it, this was one of the things that I had to talk with one of my classes about, the idea of being middle-aged. And I asked them how old that they thought I was, and some of them fuckers talking about 75. Okay. And so I told them, I said, if numbers hold true, I'm 53. And if numbers hold true, and this is something that'll just, the average Black man, he lives to the age of about 68, 69. Okay. Let's use 68 because it's easy to divide it. Right. That if your expected life existence is 68, as a Black man at the age of 34, you're middle age. You've lived half of your life. That makes you middle age. And we don't have a discussion, these types of discussions about this. The discussions that we have within Black America, which are by and large being generated by Black women who have not had any guidance or understanding of what manhood is, because there was not a father often in their home. So they grow up with subconscious grudges against men. They're still on our back talking about, you need to go out and earn more money. Go get 2, 3, 4 jobs.
Right.
Is not our way as Black folk, you know, and this idea of I am the table, and therefore I don't have, because I bring, you know, female genitalia to the table. Don't expect anything from me financially. That is historically not Black folk way, and because we exist in a tradition of ignorance of the last 40 years, we still don't get that, and we still don't understand that our families have been in crisis. Our families have been destroyed. Okay. And there's no force, not even the church, that is by and large proven to effectively be able to address that and to reverse the damage that's being done.
Wow. What are the and I know we can all attest to the consequences of the lack of men being in the family. We can see the consequences for that. But what we can't see is further down the line.
Yeah, but my thing would be this. If you're third, fourth generation of no men in the house, you don't see consequences. You just see a reality that this is how it is. This is what life is. This is what men are like, and this is what I should expect. So I think that those of us who are sane, open-minded, and observant, that we see the consequences of it, though.
Wow. You know, James Baldwin, and he was an excellent author, a brother that was on point. I've never seen him falter in any of the videos that I've watched about him. I enjoy listening to him speak. But what went into the making of James Baldwin? What made him what he is?
You know, I believe that God I know God blessed Brother Baldwin with a keen and very unusual ability to be insightful into the American race problem. But when you're talking about the building, what made Baldwin, I would actually point to his relationship with his father, being a minister and what have you. And Baldwin comes out of some of the grandest traditions of Black folk, and those traditions are the church and community. You got to remember that Baldwin's raised up in Harlem, so he has that tradition, that those influences that are impacting him, and that's not even to mention that, you know, when you're kind of an outsider amongst your own people, it causes you. The boys referred to it as being. He says the Negro is a seventh son, gifted with unusual insight into a world. And he also says that white America looks at us with amused contempt and pity. I believe that Black America, some segments of Black America, the majority of Black America, looked at Baldwin with amused contempt and pity. And I think that deepens his understanding, and solely because of his position as a homosexual. So Baldwin, all of those factors go into, because you have to think that there's one level of insight and thinking that goes into understanding that you're an American. There's a more in-depth understanding in understanding that you are a Black American. There's an even more in-depth understanding that you are a Black man in America. And to be a homosexual Black man in America, brother, you drilling deep into identity and what it means to be here, and can actually weigh the different forms and impacts of prejudice and discrimination.
Wow. You know, I remember him saying, where do I go? You know, because he's like, I can't go to the Nation of Islam because I'm gay. You know, they won't accept me. You know, where is it that I go? Where do I go? And when you're dealing with, I'm not going to call him an intellectual, but because I don't want people to think who don't know James Baldwin to think that his reach or connection with the common everyday man and woman, black man and woman, that he didn't have. I saw him being very connected.
Yeah, but I think that is the personification of what an intellectual is. It's one of the things that made Malcolm so beautiful. That Malcolm could make one statement, and it could be heard and understood and comprehended from PhDs all the way down to those with no degrees.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, probably a better term to refer to these people you're talking about is elitist.
Okay.
They have no connection whatsoever with Black folk,
mm-hmm.
and it shows in what they say.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I want us to look at this video by James Baldwin with a minute. It's just a 3-minute video, but I want us to look at it and then come back and chop it up.
Okay.
Let's see.
I would like to add someone to our group here. Professor Paul Weiss, a Sterling Professor of Philosophy at Yale. Were you able to listen to the show backstage?
I heard a good deal of it, but then I was behind the bus to do.
Yes.
So I heard only some of it.
Did you hear anything that you disagreed with?
I disagreed with a great deal of it. And of course, there's a good deal I agree with. I think he's overlooking one very important matter, I think. Each one of us, I think, is terribly alone. He lives his own individual life. He has all kinds of obstacles in the way of religion or color or size or shape or lack of ability. And the problem is to become a man.
But what I was discussing was not that problem, really. I was discussing the difficulties, the obstacles, the very real danger of death thrown up by the society when a black man attempts to become a man.
All this emphasis upon black man and white does emphasize something which is here, but it emphasizes it or perhaps exaggerates it, and therefore makes us put people together in groups which they ought not to be in. I have more in common with a black scholar than I have with a white man who's against scholarship. And you have more in common with a white author than you have with someone who's against all literature. So why must we always concentrate on color or on religion or this? There are other ways of connecting men.
I'll tell you this. When I left this country in 1948, I left this country for one reason only, one reason. I didn't care where I went. I might have gone to Hong Kong, I might have gone to Timbuktu, I ended up in Paris, on the streets of Paris, with $40 in my pocket on the theory that nothing worse could happen to me there than it already happened to me here. You talk about making it as a writer by yourself. You have to be able then to turn up all the antenna with which you live, because once you turn your back on this society, you may die. You may die. And it's very hard to sit at a typewriter and concentrate on that if you're afraid of the world around you. The years I lived in Paris did one thing for me. They released me from that particular social terror, which was not the paranoia of my own mind, but a real social danger visible in the face of every cop, every boss, everybody. I don't know what most white people in this country feel, but I can only conclude what they feel from the state of their institutions. I don't know if white Christians hate Negroes or not, but I know that we have a Christian church which is white and a Christian church which is black. I know, as Malcolm X once put it, the most segregated hour in American life is high noon on Sunday. That says a great deal for me about a Christian nation. It means that I can't afford to trust most white Christians and certainly cannot trust the Christian church. I don't know whether the labor unions and their bosses really hate me. That doesn't matter, but I know I'm not in their unions. I don't know if the real estate lobby is anything against black people, but I know the real estate lobbies keep me in the ghetto. I don't know if the Board of Education hates black people, but I know the textbooks they give my children to read and the schools that we have to go to. Now, this is the evidence. You want me to make an act of faith, risking myself, my wife, my woman, my sister, my children, on some idealism which you assure me exists in America, which I have never seen.
All right. So, Doc, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, man, you know, it's there are certain individuals that you can have nightmares about having to follow as far as speaking, and James Baldwin is one of them for me. Baldwin is powerful, poignant, and truthful. He's telling the absolute truth, you know. And I'll say this. I won't say names. Well, I'll say one of the names because he's one of my white brethren. Good white guy, Kenneth Howell. We were at the East Texas Historical Association with each other, and I hadn't seen Howell in probably 10 years since he left our university and went to another university, pursued some other opportunities. But he was talking with a fellow historian that I know as well that teaches at Texas Southern University and HBCU. And we were talking about the different stages of and how he's actually seeking to get another job and what have you. We, you know, chopping it up about that. And the historian at Texas Southern University, who was a white guy, he says this. He says, "Well, you could always get a job at my school if you put on some black face paint and cut all your hair off." Okay. If you cut all of your hair off and put on a black face, they would hire you. Now, I'm saying this from a position of Hal is someone that really is endeared to my heart, that I, you know, care for. Yet I know that conversation does not happen in front of me if it ain't happened behind closed doors already. So there has to be some comfort with racial talk amongst the white folk when black folk ain't there. And that's what Baldwin is in many ways touching upon. We can't, and Muhammad Ali had this, and for some reason I saw this morning when I was working. You know, when I was cleaning up, I was watching YouTube, and someone used it on one of their little YouTube shows. And it was Muhammad Ali talking with a white guy who says, if there are 10,000 snakes out there, but only 1,000 of them are friendly or not poisonous, would it be wise for me to let all 10,000 come in and try and sift them out? No, it wouldn't. It'd be insane. And so that, as far as to return back to the idea of black manhood, that's a part of black manhood. That's a part of the struggle that people don't see. You know, my grandfather, James Thomas Jones Sr., he was married twice. And he married the second time, beautiful lady named Fanny Jones. I don't come from people who have degrees and big jobs and big titles. I don't. Okay. I'm the first one to go to college. Period. And I remember her saying this to me. She says, "Yeah, I want you to always remain encouraged. I'm going to always be praying for you, because I know that if these white folk mess with me here and I'm pushing a vacuum, I can only imagine what they do to you." And unbeknownst to most people, because they think that the more education you get, the higher that you go up, the easier it becomes to you. Now it gets worse, because now we're doing hand-to-hand combat with them. And what really disturbs you and shakes you is that you know that nobody from your community is willing or capable of helping you in this battle. So I understand what Baldwin's talking about being abroad. It's one of the reasons why I go to Africa, to get away, to get out of here. Okay? because that pressure is on you at every moment. And any Negro who understands anything about Black folk understands that there is no guarantee when you wake up that day that it ain't your day to be the subject, to be the target of some unrequited racial tragedy. And that goes all the way, that dives all the way down to the idea of most Black women are talking about they want a man who can provide and protect. Well, Black men will do their best to protect you, but Black men by and large can't even protect themselves. So many of them are afraid of the police as well.
Doc, what is this, the idealism that James Baldwin said, you want me to believe in this idealism that I've never seen?
Of an American meritocracy, of a colorblind nation, that white folk are good, that white folk they're above that they recognize. And Baldwin uses this, and I adopted this from him, directly from him. He kept saying this in a speech or an interview I was listening to, and it just stuck with me. They want us to believe, meaning our white countrymen want us to believe that they recognize us as their Black countrymen. And there's nothing in the existence of the large existence of American history that bears that out. They have at every turn shown how much they hate us and how they wish that they could send our asses back somewhere, even to hell, if they could. And the thing that really sinks them, and once again, going back to the conversation that I was talking about that I had at the East Texas with someone who was near and dear to my heart, and a person who was just talking to him as I walked up comes up talking about, yeah, you know, if you cut all your hair off and you painted your face black, blah, 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 blah. I can separate how from this individual because I know how. But until white folks step up and separate themselves from the bigots and the racists within their community, we can't trust them at all. You know, I'm a democratic socialist, okay, and I can't afford the luxury of telling Black folk to drop down their racial guard, because white folk have not earned that from me yet, and I doubt if they ever will.
Doc, do you believe or do you think that it is a waste of time for Black men to believe in this American idealism that you're talking about?
Yes. It's a waste of time. The rules are different for you. If you go back and you look at the 70s show, Different Strokes, it takes different strokes for different folks to make the world go around. You know, it's the rules aren't. Not only are the rules not the same, you risk your career, if not your life, by thinking that way. The rules ain't the same for you. And you know they're not the same for you. And the fact that you won't come out in public and admit that lets you know that the rules are different for you, because you know that there's some punishment that's going to come if you're the loud, boisterous Black one. If you're and there's going to be punishment that is doled out towards you as far as the professional career if you're the quiet one. So you can't be too loud, you can't be too quiet.
So then, if you can't embrace that idealism, but yet you still have to be a man. You still have to rise above your circumstances, and as you spoke earlier, be that fire that keeps everybody warm. What is it? How do you internally then develop that strength to be able to do that? Because you can see that there has been circumstances where you don't have that internal strength and you just crumble. when I first started out, got out of the pharmacy school, and I was working in a community pharmacy, and the owner was an Indian woman, and she would love to get black women in. I was the only black man that she hired, but she would get black women in and literally break them. She would be like, you only get 3 mistakes, because in this field, you're supposed to be perfect at doing what you do. You only get 3 mistakes. And I remember very vividly one girl, she was like, you already at your 2nd mistake. You already at, and I looked at the black girl to see her response, and it was automatic fear went in, and her ability to think from that point is gone. She doesn't have the ability to think. She was breaking up, and I had to pull her to the side, like, look, go to the bathroom, chill out. Is not like that, to try to reel her back in, because she was going further and further off because the pressure that she was under. I mean, I had one black girl who got into an argument and walked out the pharmacy, and I had to go chase her down. So that pressure and being able to see the Indian enjoy putting this pressure on them to make them break on purpose. What is it that for the black man that he has to have internally that you don't break under that pressure?
A strength and a resolve that is developed over time. You have to, and that strength and resolve is going to come from different places. For me, it's coming from a position of they are not better than me. And everything bounces off of that. I'm reminded of a great quote where, let's see if I can share my screen. This great quote by W.E.B. Du Bois. It's from the first page of The Souls of Black Folk. And Du Bois is talking about when the kids at in his classroom, and he's the only black one, but the kids in his classroom decide that they're going to trade these greeting cards, these gorgeous visiting cards, as he refers to it. And one girl, a tall newcomer, as he refers to her, she refuses his card peremptorily. She kind of side-eyed it, okay? And Du Bois talks about, then it dawned upon him that, he was black. And this is sort of the answer, one of the answers to the question that you're asking, brother. Du Bois writes, then it dawned upon me with a certain suddenness that I was different from the others, or like mayhap, in heart and life and longing, but shut out from their world by a vast veil. I had thereafter no desire to tear down that veil, to creep through. I held all beyond it in common contempt and lived above it in a region of blue sky and great wandering shadows. That sky was bluest when I could beat my mates at examination time, or beat them at a foot race, or even beat their stringy heads. Alas, with the years, all this fine contempt began to fade. For the words I longed for, and all their dazzling opportunities were theirs, not mine. But they should not keep these prizes, I said. Some, all, I would wrest from them. Just how I would do it, I could never decide. By reading law, by healing the sick, by telling wonderful tales that swam in my head, some way. That there, for me, is the personification of how I deal with it. That I understand their steep advantage. I understood as I went through college, I understood their advantage with them having parents that had went to college, their 2nd, 3rd, 4th generations. They had somebody that they could go ahead and they could actually consult with and talk about going forward. What class should I take? How do I handle this? I'm gonna figure it out. And when I figure it out, I'm gonna whoop y'all asses with it. And that has been my motivation. And it's like there isn't, I'm a different cat, number one. I don't need a lot of people around me. but I have a steely resolve that I don't need much. All I need is a little opportunity. You give me a little fair opportunity. Oh, I got it. Okay. And so what Du Bois is talking about, you recognize that the gifts and the rewards in this society are designed for them. We got to go ahead and take it. We got to go there and get it, and we got to bring it back home. And nothing else matters in regards to that. We go get it and we bring it back. And that is in many ways what Black manhood has to be. And yet at the exact same time, doing it above board. We're not talking about preying on our own people. We're talking about developing a mentality and an understanding of being a dog. Okay. And that's just what it is. Being reliable. One of the greatest scenes in the history of film for me is the Gladiator, the very first battle that Maximus is going to battle these barbarians. And Maximus goes along down the line with all of his men and daps them up and just says, strength and honor, strength and honor. And that's got to be what it is for us, strength and honor. Now you weak, you fall, come to us because we've fallen before. And if there's any element of manhood, and once again, I'm glad to see it kind of altering now. Black men have always been lone wolves, by and large, especially when we have a situation where we're hurting, where we're troubled, where we're bothered. We often behave as if we're the only ones who've ever been through this, and nothing could be further from the truth. Or if nobody really cares, nothing could be further from the truth.
Exactly. When there's a special relationship, or should be a special relationship between father and son, or a special bond.
And father and daughter.
And it seems as if that the system of things tries to rip that apart. What are the things that the father must get through to his son? And what are the things that the father must get through to their daughter? And I'll give you an example. I was on Instagram the other day, and I was reading something one of my daughters wrote. And she was like, giving mom all the praises. My mom is my best friend and all this. And I sat back and I said, well, damn, what am I, chopped liver? Because you just left me totally out of the damn thing, regardless of everything that I have done and everything that I do. Now she can't remember certain things, but I can recall a lot of things where mama wasn't there. It was daddy there. It was daddy doing these things. But it's like we're often pushed aside, or there's that wedge that comes in between. So what is it that the things that dad must install into the boys and into the girls that will make that bond unbreakable? Because it's like as soon as the children can be separated from their father, then there becomes a downward fall. And I believe that for us to be able to protect our communities, we have to be able to stop that connection, to stop them from breaking that connection, to stop the downward fall. So what are the things that you think as a father that you have to relay to your son, and the things that you have to relay, to your daughter?
I wasn't blessed to have a biological daughter, but I've had a stepdaughter, and I'll deal with the son first. For my son, and I'm divorced from his mother. My son used to have these apparently vivid nightmares of me running, which is weird because I don't run. Okay. But in his nightmare, and I'm talking about he's 5 years old, 4, 5, 6 years old. And I was out of the house for reasons that, hey, it is what it is. But in this nightmare, this recurring nightmare he had, I would be running in front of him and he would be running behind me, trying to catch me. And I would run off of a cliff. And he would say, Dad, when I get to the edge, I can't see you anymore. You're gone. I can't see you. And I had to kind of develop a pact with his mother that when he has those feelings in that dream, you call me. Regardless of what goes on between us, you call me. This is about him, not you, not me. And when he would call me, it'd break my heart. I would drop whatever I was doing and I'm going to get him, period. I remember I was on doing a news correspondent thing, doing an interview. And that call came in. I said, yo, I got to go. And I left. I said, take this mic and all this shit off of me unless you want me to walk out of here with your property. And so I developed, and I can only talk about what I developed with my child. I developed this thing called rule number 1. And I would say, yo, rule number 1 is I will never leave you. Okay. And whenever he got uncertain, I would just look at him and say, what's rule number 1? And he would look at me and he would say, you will never leave me. Now, job opportunities have come, recruitments have come, but none of them were sufficient to get me to break rule number 1. I didn't want a situation where I was somewhere in a different city and he was back here in Houston or wherever his mother had took him. And I couldn't get there to him. And his aunt had said this. His aunt was trying to explain the difference between me and the father of her children. And she said, okay, she's talking to my son's mother. And she says, okay, check it out. Let's do an experiment. I pick up the phone and tell, the father of my children that something's wrong or that they need something. And you do the same. And let's see who get here first. And of course, I would get there first because I'm the only one that's still here in Houston.
Right.
The other cats, they had, economic decisions, what have you. They made different choices. They moved around. Me, nah. And my son knows that. That if he picks up that phone, regardless of what I'm doing, I'm answering that phone. Okay. So the assuredness that I'm going to be here, regardless of what that look like, I'm going to be here to the absolute best of my ability. I'm going to be here. And then the modeling, and as they get older, you begin to have these different conversations. You begin to venture out and experience the world a little bit and get increased understanding. And one of the more heartfelt, two of the heartfelt statements, two heartfelt moments I had with my son. One was after he had finished. He was about 6, 7, 8 years old. He was at soccer practice, had a soccer game at the YMCA. So I'm at his game, this and that. Never, if I know about it, I'm there. I got the job offer that I wanted. And I rationalized that it was going to be, I would only be in Dallas. I would be running an AFAM studies program up in Dallas. More money, more everything. And so we're sitting in the car, and I tell him, I'm like, yo, I got this job offer, this and that, and blah, 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 blah. And he's initially excited. He says, yeah, we go to Dallas. We'll have a lot of fun in Dallas, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And I said, man, I'll be going, but you'll have to stay here with your mother, because that's what the judge said. And he immediately starts crying.
Oh.
Saying that that's unfair. And he turns the tables on me and he says, Dad, what's rule number 1? And I was like, I will never leave you. And he said, we'll call him. And I'm like, call him? He said, yeah, call him. So I got to call the head of the search committee. And I get him on the phone, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we were just talking about, different things about your position and blah 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 blah." And before I can say anything, my son yells out, "My daddy ain't coming! My daddy ain't coming! He said he would never leave me. He ain't coming." And the guy was like, "Oh, that's what this call is about." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I can't leave him. Under no circumstances can I leave." And that was my closest, I had the job offer, I had everything. I just hadn't signed the contract. I was just waiting for the perfect moment to kind of break it to him. And he wasn't having it. And so, the other moment was, and this has been within the last year. He had told me he wanted to talk to me. And I'm like, all right, man, what you want to talk about, And he said, I want to apologize to you. I had just taken him to get his haircut at his barber's house. And I apologize to me for what? He said, I was mad at you for so long. He said, because I thought you just left. He said, but now being older, there's no way in hell you could have made it in that house with them crazy people. And I'm like, okay. I hung in there long enough for him to finally be able to see exactly what it was and why. He couldn't understand it as 13, 14, 15-year-old, but as a 20-year-old man, he now gets it. And he's like, I see how they act. And I see, having a couple moments of heartbreak that weren't due to anything that he had done. So yeah, I mean, that foundation of I will never leave you. Of course, physically, one day I will leave, but I'm in that drive stage now of my life where I'm just stacking money, investments, things like that. So when I do leave, him and we're trying to keep it going, James Thomas Jones V will be taken care of and provided for. So that's the assuredness, the consistency, the understanding and the conveying that there is nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, that you could do that would make me not love you, and there is nothing that could ever be so alluring that it would pull me away from you. Nothing. And so I think that that's crucial, that they understand, and I think it's crucial that Black men understand that by and large, except for a few of us, we don't have a safe space. Hell, you lucky if you can get a quiet space, let alone it be quiet and safe. But despite that storm that we go through as Black men, we still have to be that quiet, stable, calm space for everybody else around us. And that for me is crucial, the foundation, and then all those life lessons about who you are. And my son and his friends, look here, I call them Norks because they nerds and dorks. Okay, the smartest cats in the world. Okay, they're racially diverse. They're this and that. They come from different backgrounds, which is a very, very beautiful thing. But I still have to remind him that you're still a black man. And there are some people out here who don't want you to live life free. And we gotta deal with those people. And you know, my son had him and his friends, they wanted to rent out a place in Jasper, Texas. He's the most physically imposing of his friends, so they think he's the toughest dude in the world, right? Okay.
Right.
And his mother called me and she said, listen, I need you to talk to your son. He wants to go this weekend with his friends up to Jasper, Texas. And Jasper, Texas is where they drug James Byrd behind that truck. And I just told him, I said, yo, I'll make you a deal. You don't go to Jasper. You can grab 2 of your friends and I will fly you and them to whatever comic convention y'all want to go to in America. But Jasper, no, we can't do that. Because part of it is we have to set the board for us to have the maximum, the best chance of survival and success. And you're too important to me for something to happen to you that didn't have to happen.
Exactly. You know, I want to play this next video, play part of it, and get your take on it. So let's go.
Followed your name into the wild. Showed you my shame, ran a mile. I sing your lullabies, melodies like a symphony. We walk the same inside a fire. I just need a little mercy, mercy on me. I could use a little mercy, mercy on me. I drank your holy water, liberty, your make-believes. I could use a little mercy, mercy on me. I play the game, I reconcile. Well. I wear the blame like a suit and tie. I sing your lullabies, your melodies like a symphony. We fall the same when we walk the wide. I just need a little mercy, mercy on me. I just need a little mercy, mercy on me. I drank your holy water, liberty, your make-believes. I could use a little mercy, mercy on me. Oh, no. Yeah. Have a little mercy on me. Oh, yeah. I keep growing and you keep tearing me down. I keep coming and you keep tearing me down. I just need a little mercy, mercy on me. I just need a little mercy, mercy on me. I drank your holy water, liberty, your make-believe. I could use a little mercy, mercy on me.
All right. So that was Jacob Banks. And the song is called Mercy. And it's a very interesting song, especially for a Black man to sing. And he's talking about he needs mercy. He says, I drank your holy water, meaning, I took your religion. I sang your lullabies like a symphony, so I did your little singings, your ABCs and all that. He bought into their system. He said he bought into the system, but now he's needing mercy. And we look at the system that America has and we buy into it. But at the same time, Doc, when we find ourselves in some trouble, we're looking for mercy. And we can see the differences where, as he say, we walk through the fire, we burn the same. If we fall off the wire, we fall the same, but the outcome is not equal. So he's looking for mercy. What's your thoughts? I see that as a reality. But the question is, as a Black man, is that something that you should aspire for, to be able to, play the game? Like you said, I played the game, I wear the blame now like a shirt and tie, I can't fucking get rid of it, because you give your all and you get shitted on in return. We like it. I liken it to U.S. soldiers that go serve in the military and give all that you can give to the country, and at the end of the day, your ass sleeping on the street. What's your thoughts on that? And I want to welcome Brother Willie Rivers into the program. Peace and blessings, Brother Willie.
My thing is, first off, don't nobody care nothing about your problems in this world, and that's kind of how you have to approach the world. And I'm not going to say as a Black man, I would say as regardless of your race, gender, sexual orientation, religious background, if you're not one of the elites, this life is coming at you fast, and this is going to hurt. If you're thinking that your engagement, participation, your acceptance of the system is going to keep the system from dogging you out, you're going to be sadly mistaken, and that's just the reality of it. And that's true for everybody that is non-elite, and when I talk about being non-elite, I use this measure. If you notice when your check hit your account, you ain't elite. Okay. And it's one of those where maybe the expression of you need a little mercy allows you to kind of take some of the pressure off just by the sake that you expressed it. But the truth of the matter is ain't nobody offering, especially no Black man. You ain't getting no mercy. Are you crazy? This is a fight to the very end. You can rest when you die, and that's what it comes down to. And anybody that is trying to, kind of prop you up and tell you, oh, yeah, well, you just stay the course, brother. It'll get better. No, it ain't no guarantee it's gonna ever get better. It may change and it may transform. You may have a couple, thousand in the bank and not worried about being homeless next month or what you're going to eat. But there's going to be some stress that is loading up on you from a different source. And so So much of it comes down when you're talking about, I just need a little mercy. You better create your own mercy. You better create your own outlets. For me, a big part of me remaining sane is reading, writing, and jazz.
Mm.
You know, I'll put on Terrence Blanchard's Over There. I'll listen to it for hours. There's something about that particular tune that speaks to my soul.
Mm.
You have to learn. You have to learn how to manage stress in your life as a Black man. If you don't, you will be dead soon.
Mm.
Stress is going to kill you.
Mm.
And it's one of the reasons why I believe so many of us develop drug addictions, alcoholism, sexual addictions, because they're seeking an escape from something, and it's never going to fit it. It's the equivalent of being hungry, but you go out and you run 2 miles. You running 2 miles is not going to solve your hunger. You're dealing with a soul problem. You're dealing with an investment in a system that will whittle away your soul and your common sense if you ain't careful. Have you around here talking about you need a Birkin bag, 10, 15 grand, and Black women bring grossing, not even netting, grossing 40,000. But it would be worth it for you to go ahead and do that same thing with the things that men buy. I got so many of my students who drive Dodge Chargers or Challengers, and they driving Hellcats. So we talking about $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 car at the age of 18, 19 years old. Can't even afford insurance on it. Got to put it in your grandmama name.
Mm.
Thank you, Twin Pyramid. You really got to learn as Black men, as mature Black men. We have to learn how to handle stress. We have to be the village that we're constantly trying to tend to. We got to make sure each other going to the doctor. We got to make sure each other is right psychologically. Pick up the fucking phone. Just check on somebody. See how they doing. Because in one way or another, we all going through it. You either entering a storm, in a storm, or have just come out of a storm.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. We're going to look at this next video where Minister Farrakhan talks about a conversation he had with Michael Jackson, where Mike was doing some stressing and was depressed. All right, come back and get your take on that.
When I talked to Brother Michael, he was in deep depression. And I said, Michael, out of our pain came our creative genius. I said, if it were not for the pain of slavery, we wouldn't have spiritual, nor would we have blues or gospel. All of it came from our pain. That great gospel song that Martin Luther King wanted to hear the night before he was killed. Precious Lord, take my hand, was written by a Chicago brother who had just lost his wife. And in losing his wife, he went into the room, and his pain brought out that magnificent song. I said, let your pain, Michael, serve your creative genius. That's all I said. After that, Michael came out with the album called History. Now listen, he's serious. Because I didn't know what was giving him pain. starts talking about the pain, history. How many victims must there be slaughtered in vain across the land? And how many struggles must there be before we choose to live the prophet's plan? Every day, create your history. Every path you take, you're leaving your legacy. Every soldier dies in his glory. Every legend tells of conquest and liberty. Don't let no one get you down. Keep moving on higher ground. Keep flying until you're the king of the hill. No force of nature can break your will to self-motivate. She says this face that you see is destined for history. Then he wrote, they don't care about us. They don't care about us. They who? See, he's sending his people messages out of his pain. They don't care. And some of you are dumb enough to think because we have a black president that they now care. If it does not get better for the least of us, then somebody still doesn't care about us. Skinhead, deadhead, everybody gone mad situation, aggravation, everybody allocation. In the suite, on the news, everybody dog food, bang, bang, shot dead. Everybody's gone mad. All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. Beat me, hate me, you can never break me, will me, thrill me, you can never kill me, chew me, sue me, everybody do me, kick me, hype me, don't you black or white me. That's what Michael was talking about. They made him go back in the studio and change those words. And Michael was labeled anti-Semitic. Tell me what has become of my life. I have a wife and 2 children who love me. I am the victim of police brutality. Now I'm tired of being the victim of hate. You're raping me of my pride. Oh, for God's sake, I look to heaven to fulfill its prophecy and set me free. Skinhead, deadhead, everybody gone bad. Trepidation, speculation, everybody allegation. In the suite, on the news, everybody dog food, black man, black male, throw your brother in jail. All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. Tell me what has become of my rights. Am I invisible because you ignore me? Your proclamation promised me liberty. Now I'm tired of being the victim of shame. They're throwing me in a class with a bad name. I can't believe this is the land from which I came. You know, I really do hate to say it. The government don't want us safe. But if Roosevelt was living, he wouldn't let this be. No. Skinhead, deadhead, everybody gone bad. Situation, speculation, everybody litigation. Beat me, bash me, you can never trash me. Hit me, kick me, you can never get me. All I want to say is, they don't really care.
Thoughts, Doc?
To remind viewers of the pictures that we're seeing, we believe that
there's a sturdiness, an unbendingness that comes from truth. We heard it with Baldwin's response in that interview, and we hear with the dear minister there's just a truth just shines through. You got to remember that it's not a far reach to say, and it's probably one of the best descriptions of what jazz music actually is it is the black man's story of pain. And it is out of the deepest, darkest places that we get artistic and musical and literary genius. So it's not surprising that so many of our greatest expressions of artistry comes from poor and downtrodden people in this nation, Black folk. So, when you really think about it, Black folk have given the world three of its greatest and most recent artistic traditions, being blues, jazz, and hip hop. And so it should be expected. The minister's correct about our struggle and our strife leading to us being able to, to cope with life, to be able to cope with what it is that we do, because if you don't find a coping mechanism, you're going to kill yourself.
Now, Twin says Nicholas Payton says we should call it Black American music. I don't know, Twin, are you talking about jazz? Is that what you're talking about? And Doc, I got the link that you shared.
Yeah, it's music. It's music, so you probably don't want to play it.
Oh, okay.
You get what I'm saying.
Okay.
I just shared that so people could, it's a different expression of kind of a gospel jazz expression of mercy, mercy, have mercy on me.
Okay, perfect. Now, I want to go to this story that I just saw, and because do you feel that it is fitting for a Black man to be asking for mercy from the enemy? Do you believe that's a fitting situation?
I would argue no, because there's no reasonable expectation of it being given. You've never seen that occur. And it's one of the, it's in many ways a Du Bois talks about the veil and how he didn't, once the shadow of race dawned upon him, he had no urge to go through it and to, I think that those types of thoughts for Black folk need to be kept in-house. You don't go and beg white folk for mercy because they have none of it for you, by and large. So, it's kind of like the, scripture saying, why do you worry? It solves nothing. Why do you ask them for mercy? It solves nothing. And that's just really what it is. That's when you should be with us. That's when the tribe should be together. That, brother, I'm tired. Okay, boom, 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 boom. And we can figure out what it, and let's be honest, that for a lot of times, a lot of the weariness and the wearing down that our people go through is financially related. If we could remove that from you, and we probably could, at least temporarily, if you're talking about collectively, that would be a acceptance of mercy, collectivism. But you're not going to get that from the people who are making you ask for mercy. In many ways, that's almost laughable.
Definitely. And this idea of having mercy for your enemy, because in the story that we're about to go over, well, I guess we can go into that first, and then I'll come back and we talk about it. Let's see. So a black man asks judge for mercy on behalf of his racist attacker. A white man has been convicted on 6 federal hate counts for racially assaulting a black historian. A white man is facing prison time in the racist attack of a black historian, Marvin Dunn. The irony is the racist attack occurred in Rosewood, the very grounds of a tragic race massacre that claimed an entire town of black people. David Allen Emiel, 62, set his sights on bothering Florida International University professor Marvin Dunn on September 6th of 2022. Dunn and a group of men, a mix of white and black, were meeting to discuss the plans for a peace house in honor of the Rosewood massacre, per the Miami News Times. In 1923, a mob of 200 white men pummeled the community, killing dozens of black men, women, and children, and burnt the town to a crisp over a false accusation that a black Rosewood resident assaulted a white woman. Dunn's meeting was interrupted by Emanuel when he started shouting at the group and calling them niggers unprovoked, the report says. Emanuel then drove his truck toward the group at full speed as if he was going to hit them. Authorities says he was arrested a week later for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and allegedly complained on his way down to the jailhouse. I didn't do a goddamn thing. Get treated like this shit over a fucking nigger. Man, said Emanuel, according to a prosecutor. This criminal punishment didn't stop there either. Emanuel, a 62-year-old white resident of Rosewood, was convicted on 6 federal hate crime counts in July and faced up to 10 years in prison. Instead, the U.S. District Judge Alan Windsor sentenced him to a year and a day for each count to be served concurrently. Emanuel was indicted on federal hate crimes charges for willfully intimidating and attempted to intimidate the 6 men with his truck. Emanuel's federal public defender had asked for probation and no jail time, telling the court Emanuel wants to offer his deepest apologies to the victims in this case. The report says it was Dunn who asked the judge for mercy. For me, my faith requires forgiveness, so I must. It requires me to love my neighbors as well, but I have more work to do on that. I'm not asking my neighbor to love me or even apologize to us. I'm only asking that he assures the court that we can live in peace as neighbors, he wrote in a statement. And that's the end of the article. Your thoughts?
You know, it reminds me of the great quote from Karl Marx, where he says, religion, the opiate of the masses. Meaning once they get hooked on that, they'll never get off of it. So when you've been taught that old time religion of forgiveness, and you haven't been dealing with the God of Daniel, the God of wrath, those things are predictable and should be expected, to be honest with you. That's a brother who, may God bless his heart, doesn't understand that he's not in heaven. He's living in the earthly realm. And there is no requirement for him to forgive someone who tried to run him over with a truck for whatever reason. But there's a element of, for me, that reeks of, after a certain point, it reeks of cowardice. Mm-hmm. That there's nothing that they can do to you that would make you stand up to them. You're a coward. You're a coward. If and yet in the next breath, I guarantee you, this is the type of brother who would talk about putting on the full armor of God. Mm-hmm. Put that full armor of God on and go fight those evildoers. You don't even have to put it in your mind in racial terms. Just put it in your mind in good versus evil, because they are unregenerate evil that should be sent to hell.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And you know that that in the Bible, where it talks about loving your neighbor, then the lawyer that was in the audience listening to Jesus asked the question, well, who is my neighbor? Jesus never said that your neighbor is the person that lives next door to you. He gave them a parable of the Good Samaritan and said that that Good Samaritan is your neighbor. And, it's like, how do you forget that part? How do you ignore that part?
Well, I mean, you focus upon the parts that will feed you and will position you in your world around what it is you truly want to do. There's justification for everything you could imagine under the Bible and within the Bible. And these people are devoutly coward. And that's the greatest description of them. That they will hem and haw, they will mix, they will equivocate, all to achieve what is their ultimate goal. And that ultimate goal is to stay out the way of white folk. And many of our people believe that if they just go along with their oppression in one way or another, that they'll be able to withstand the storm.
Mm. And I believe that we definitely have to be able now to get off of that spoon-fed or spoon-taught cowardice that you get when you come under a doctrine that is that will speak to tell you that you should love your enemies.
Yeah, but see, the thing is that a coward is a coward, and it's not due to religion. I believe that, especially once again dealing with the Black revolutionary that I recognize when I read Scripture, versus this one that they seem to operate up under, is truly ludicrous for me, and it's truly predicated upon them being able to remain out the way of white folk. and that's just what they do, and they're committed to doing that, and there's nothing that you can do with such a person.
But the quote unquote religion that backs that theory up, that you're supposed to do these things, is what makes it so acceptable. And when they're telling it to somebody else that may listen and say, "You's a fool," but they'll stand on that. No, it's in the Bible, and this is what God meant for us to be, and this da 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 da. They don't see Jesus, the Messiah, as no revolutionary that you see him as,
because they choose not to.
And they're taught that he's not that. They're taught that he's not that.
I've been to church services that just really, I didn't even know they was using the Bible with the portrait of Christ that they were doing. And when you have people who have been raised up within that, and there's nothing inside of them that causes them to have some backbone and to stand up, there's nothing you can do with that. They truly are what they refer to as sheep who are going to be led to the slaughter. There's nothing we can do about that, but to have a historian who doesn't have enough sense to stand up for what is right. Now you can talk about your relationship with Christ. Well, hell, what about those victims of Rosewood? Why didn't you stand up for them? They couldn't speak up and get justice back then, but we'll definitely do it for them right now. And it's a strain of cowardice that is indomitable, to be honest with you.
There are things that as men, and I'm glad you even pointed out, again, that he is a historian in that place, so he knows what our people went through.
Yeah.
And then to turn around and, talk the way that he talked is really foolishness. But when it's time to get our house in order, I really believe that for those who think like that, they have not come into contact with a Christian that sees Jesus the way you do. I don't believe that they've come into contact with them.
No, I don't know. I don't know. I think that the better way of saying that is they can't be moved or swayed by someone like me, because they are so knee deep, ass deep in a non-liberating gospel, and they'll seek to pull me down there with them, because they basically are in concrete. They're never going to move from that.
But see, that's where I disagree, Doc, because I look at it and I believe they can be moved, but they have to see an example. They have to. There's nothing that I could tell them to make them move. I couldn't do it, right? But you could, because you're in that faith and you're showing them something different. So for me, they'll, say, "Oh, you them Farrakhan niggas, y'all just talk that shit. Y'all crazy as hell. Ain't nobody listening to y'all on y'all way to hell." So they won't listen to me. But for another Christian man to stand up and say, "No, bro, you looking at that the wrong way. That's not the revolutionary Messiah that I know." And I think that's a difference. We need to be able, as men, to put things in right order. And I believe that things won't be in right order until the men of God stand up and put it in order. And, even when we're looking at the Good Samaritan, Jesus gave, there was the Levite, there was the priest, all these examples of the people that saw the man and kept it moving. Even the Jew, he saw him, he had compassion, but he didn't do a damn thing and he kept it moving. So, I believe that with the proper teaching. And I'm saying this because we as men have to be able to get together and have these manhood sessions
Mm-hmm.
where we can say what need to be said. You know, if a brother got a problem, running his household, or he got a problem dealing with his baby mama, or problem on the job, where he can express, what's going on and get real counsel from real men, that we can sharpen each other to be strong and to be there for each other when time called for. But we all got to have, that example. I think that that's something that's necessary. That's necessary for us as Black men to be able to save those who can be saved. I think that that's something that's necessary.
I just, the thing for me is because I've spent years around and talking with feeble-minded Christian men that the gospel is not active in their lives. What they have is a bunch of sayings and quotes that are inactive, and as a result of that, the fruits of who they are and what they produced is indiscernible. And those are individuals that, to be honest with you, they're not difference makers. And they're set in their ideological ways. They know what they know. When you look at some individuals who are steeped in biblical thought, there's no change in their mind after a certain point, because they're convinced they know what they know, even though it's of no use to the liberation and salvation of the Black nation. Many of them do not have that even on their radar as being the in any way the goal of their religion. And that's a problem. Because if that's, ironically, that takes us all the way back to where we began. And it is quite simply the idea that what is the outcome you're looking for? And if the outcome that you're looking for is actually a colorblind Christian nation where we're all singing Kumbaya, you're dreaming, man. You're dreaming. And your vision and your view of religion and the use of religion is never going to be reconcilable with mine, which is aimed at the liberation and salvation of the Black nation. So we don't have the same goal. We don't have the same outlook. If we were in a kitchen together and I was trying to make lasagna and you over there flouring up chicken and heating up grease, we have no use to each other at that moment.
Definitely. It's just that, for me, and and I do get it that we can't save everybody. But I'm strongly built on that if I could be saved, more can be saved. And for me, it took an example of what Black manhood looks like. It was an example that I had to see, okay, well, this is what a Black man is supposed to be able to do. This is how a Black man is supposed to be able to live.
And what age were you?
I was like, what, 22, 23 by that time?
Yeah. See, that's different. Because you're still in the exploration phase. You're still trying to figure life out. That's a wholly different position from someone who's 60, 65, 50, who believes that they've figured it all out. They feel as if they're the teachers now, and they're going to explain to you, even though it hasn't worked for them. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
And when we talk about men putting things in proper order, because if we don't do it, it will never be done. It will never be done. That means that there's going to be, some hurt feelings. Because what I've learned, Doc, is that you can never tell truth and not offend the guilty, because they will be stung by you telling them the truth. Because in the reality is like, people really don't want to hear the truth, especially about themselves. But in order to be made into a man, in order to be made to be able to withstand the pressure, you got to be able to be dealing with what is truth about yourself, and then use to turn yourself around so that you can be strong enough to defeat the world out there. You got to be able to deal with the truth about yourself. And if you can't deal with the truth about yourself, you ain't gonna be able to deal with the truth about nobody.
Yeah, but that's the crux of the matter: the being able to be pliable, to be teachable. If you don't have that, then there's nothing that is nobody. If nobody can tell you nothing, nobody can tell you nothing, because you know it all. And that's a problem. And and I try and tell people that one of the things that I've always prided myself on has been, I learned something, positive or negative, what it is to do, what is not to do, from everybody. I'm still learning, to this very day, and people's, a lot of people are kind of shocked that, with all your education, you don't know it. But no, I don't know everything. And I'm still absorbing. I'm still learning, and I'm eager to learn. I want to learn something new every single day. I had this moment. I got a student in my class who's a twin, and we were talking about the Jewish Holocaust, Joseph Mengele, and how he had this thing with midgets and twins. And the brother says that he's a twin. And I said, "Oh, identical?" And he says, "No, I have a sister. My twin is a sister." And I said, "So is she identical?" And someone was like, "No. If it's a boy and a girl, they're never identical. They're fraternal twins." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, shit. That's what I learned today. Then I didn't know that, and the ability to be able to say, okay, well, I didn't know that, or and even on this platform, there are many times when I say, yo, I can't comment upon that. I don't know enough about that subject, versus other people that I've engaged with. They'll start pontificating about something, and you just like, what is they really talking about? And so there's a humility that has to be attached to growth, a willingness to understand, to increase your knowledge. And if you don't have that, what can we do with you? We can't make you, what's that old saying? You can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You have everything that you need, or you can develop a network that would allow you to develop yourself as far as a man and manhood and what have you. But if you're too stubborn and you a know-it-all, and you it ain't right unless you got the mic and you leading and this and that, and can't nobody do nothing with you. So you finished, you done.
In our last video, I want to show of the situation that happened over there in the UK.
So the police, they decided to do this to a child. Here it is. Put up the fix full mask. A disturbing viral video captured a British police officer putting a black child, 14 years of age, in a headlock. You see that first screenshot? That is a full headlock to a child. This was during a scuffle before deciding to throw the teen down and then aiming at the teen and shooting the teen with his taser while the teen was down. Officials say the teen was arrested for assaulting an officer and other minor charges, including resisting arrest. This was once again in the UK. The incident, according to West Midland Police, was a response to their coming to secure a civil matter between neighbors. On Monday, October 16th, a little after 5:15 p.m., footage shows the WMP officer wrestling the child down to the ground in front of his parents' home in the Bromford district of Birmingham, England. Bystanders are crying out, saying, quote, "Get off him, get off him," as a confrontation results in him being placed in a headlock. The 14-year-old child breaks away and starts to run. That is when the officer, he was struggling with, aims his taser, shoots the kid down with approximately 50,000 volts of pure electricity. In the video, a woman thought to be the child's mother can be heard shouting, "He's 14. What the F have you done to my son?" End quote. As the officer tells the child not to move, people can be heard pleading, "Watch his asthma. Look, he can't breathe. He's a child." The officer can be heard telling people, "Stay back," before adding, "I don't care. I don't care." The WMP statement said officers attempted to defuse the situation, but threats of criminal damage were made. One of the officers tried to arrest the suspect, but he resisted, and the officer was further attacked by another man. During the scuffle, the 14-year-old child was tasered. The statement said, according to the Daily Mail, police confirmed they arrested the child along with a 37-year-old man on suspicion of assaulting a police officer, and the pair remain in custody. The teenager was also arrested for criminal damage and threats to cause criminal damage. Thousands have viewed the video on social media, leading Black Lives Matter UK to write, quote, "Disturbing footage reveals a 14-year-old black child being choked and tasered by West Midlands police, highlighting the urgent need to end police brutality and excessive use of force." Others who shared the video commented that the officer seemed to escalate the situation rather than get it under control, saying that the process they utilized cannot be an acceptable practice. A spokesperson from the West Midlands Police stated that the department is currently reviewing officers' body camera footage and will refer the matter to the Independent Office for Police Conduct, which commented on the occurrence. A spokesperson for the IOPC said, and I quote, "We are aware of this incident, and we understand that a referral is to be made to us by West Midlands Police in relation to it. When we receive that, we will carry out a thorough assessment to determine what further action is required from us." Hell of a thing. Once again, normative policing, but this is in the UK. Thought.
I mean, it is typical. It is not surprising. I don't know what the young man expected, though. You can't be allowed as a young black man to be in front of your mom's house. I put that on him. You know, you should probably just FaceTime. I mean, where are you safe? Where are you allowed to go? I guess my only thought in this matter is, thank God British police don't have guns.
So there we have it. That happens over there in the UK. And it doesn't matter where we are if you're a black person. You can be in America, you can be in UK, you can be in France. And the problems are still the same. The situations are still the same. And we bowed down to them. We pleaded with them. We begged them. And got nothing in return but more of the same treatment. I watched a video earlier today, or listened to one, and we're going to talk about it on Saturday, on the Detroit riots. that was, I think it was like 67 or something like that. And I'm listening to the newscaster, Doc, describing what's going on in Detroit. And the pop in my mind was like, well, damn, that's the same shit they're saying that's going on in Palestine. When is it that we're going to get the message that the only real help for us is us, and that we're going to have to fight these demons, period, point blank? Because that, listening to that part of the video made it very, very clear that the understanding why President Biden sent 2 carrier groups to Israel made it very, very clear. And we got to wake up, but we'll talk about that on Saturday. We'll talk about that on Saturday. Closing thoughts, Doc?
So my only closing thoughts is, just continue to build. Love you all for coming here and listening to us, and all the support that you have, that you've shown us, all the love that you've shown us. You have to remember that oftentimes we do, and I can speak for myself, I do what I do almost in a lone wolf status. And be it writing, be it recording, be it doing the show. It's like setting your child out for the world to engage with. And you just don't know if you're on the mark or if you're off the mark or what have you. So any positive feedback that we get is truly the wind beneath our wings. And we look forward to our, to the next time together, and building some more. Love you all. Peace.
Right. Peace. Thanks, Doc. And definitely, we thank everybody for showing up. I want to welcome Sister Cassie to the program. Peace and blessings, Sister Cassie. Good to see you as always. And, for me, my closing comments is that, we got to change how we are. Because how we are, and I'm speaking to us as a people, how we are is just not cutting the mustard. We really have to come up out of this state that we're in, and we have to raise our minds to where we want to be. Set that platform out and how we're going to get there and make it happen. Just make it happen. And I'm glad the way we had this conversation today, Doc. I would call it, sitting over at the front of the fireplace, and having a good conversation about, as men, what needs to happen, what we need to do, and how do we do these things eternally? Because we got to have that internal strength in order to be able to stand up, in order to be able to do the things that are necessary for us to get done. Because believe it or not, a lot of people are looking and wanting to see what is the Black man and woman of America going to ever do. We are the hope of our ancestors. We are the hope of our ancestors, and we cannot let them down. We cannot let them down. They went through too much. Even that I think about Dr. King, and getting this piece of his head blown off or shot in the head, and then, him being alive at the hospital and they're suffocating him and spitting on him, that he really loved us and he wanted, something great for his people. But we are the ones to make it happen. So as we always say, you kill the nigga in you, I'm gonna kill the nigga in me, and our God will reign supreme. We are Black first, today, tomorrow, and forever. Love you, family. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum.
So you better get the message and get it straight.
You're going to need some bridge work. It's simple as that.
Because we're living in judgment. We're living in implementation.